Hello everyone. Good morning. Uh, I think this will be our last class. Right? Due to busy schedule, I could not take some of your classes. As a result, uh, you know, two units are left. And what are those two units? One is the Kabir, and another is the Buddhist political thought. And let me assure you that I will not ask you questions on those contents or chapters or topic what I have not taught you. And in this class, uh, I will start where I left in the last class. We were discussing about Abul Fazl. Right? If you remember, in the last class, we discussed about you know what is Akbar Nama or Anhi Akbari, right? And what is there in these books, right? So if you compare Barney and Abul Fazl, right, you will find one thing common that they were thinking about uh, the social stability, or they were concerning about social stability. While Barney was following Shariat, Hazel had a national, rational, and secular approach to history. His Anhi Akbari creates a theory of sovereignty premised on the social, contract. So it means for Barney that social stability is possible only, by following Shariat and only by imposing Shariat on non-Muslim, because Musalman is the uh, right, you know, uh, to become a Musalman and to follow the Islam is the right choice, and all the kafirs, those who are non-Muslim, uh, they must follow Islam uh, in order to become the higher individual, right, or higher human being. So Shariat should be followed by the kafir. The state must ensure it. So that's why following Shariat becomes important for Muslim and non-Muslim, uh, you know, for their betterment, and uh, this following will result, uh, in the creation of social stability. But on the other hand, Abul Fazl, uh, he had a very different approach to understanding history. His approach is the rational and secular approach, and his work, Anhi Akbari, it has created a kind of sovereignty, or a kind of sovereign, right? And that sovereign is promised on social contract. I mean, all uh, you know all identify themselves with that sovereign. In a sense, uh, that sovereignty, or that king or sultan, uh, all the citizens or subjects of the state, from Muslim to non-Muslim, there is a tacit consent to the sultan. So that's the kind of social contract based on the tacit consent. So to Fajl, Badshah is a powerful and established owner who cannot be eliminated by anyone. Right. So here also Barney, talks about the Badshah is omnipotent, and he is the most powerful uh, owner, right? Who cannot be eliminated by anyone. It is a superior place in the Mughal Empire. So who will be the Badshah? Badshah is a superior place in the Mughal Empire. He is the ultimate authority on all socio-economic, political and judicial power. To him, Badshahat is the light derived from the God which has been sent by God himself. God throws his kindness on Badshah, who works as the agent of God. A Badshah considered himself as the father and his subjects as his children. The welfare of his people, sorry, children. So it was the duty to make every efforts for the welfare of his people and take care every aspects of their life. It is, uh, very much related with the Hindu political thought. It's given by either Vedvyas or Manu or Kautilya, right? What should be, uh, or who is the king? One can say the divine origin theory of state. Fazl is also giving a kind of divine origin of state in his theorization of monarchy or the king theorization of monarchy. What Fazl is saying that Badshah is the uh, social, economic, political, and judicial power. He is the head of all aspects of the authority or power, and this Badsahat, right? It is something which has been derived from the God, and God had sent uh, the Badshah, and God throws His kindness on Badshah. Uh, that means the Badshah is the God on the earth. The Badshah is the God on the earth, and he works. The Badshah works as the agent of God. Right? So, since God is the father of all, so Badshah should be the father of all, and all his subjects or praja will be his children. So it was the duty of Badshah to make every effort for the welfare of the people and take care every aspects of their life. So Badsahat, or the you can say that the legitimacy of Badshah depends whether he is working for the people or whether he is working in according to the assigned uh, you know task uh, of God, what God has assigned Batsa, whether Batsa is doing that work or not. That is the base uh, of the legitimacy of Bat Sultanate, uh, legitimacy of the Batsa. So the king establishes his sovereignty by considering himself as the agent of God and used his absolute power. Hazel considers Badshah as the father of his people. So it was his duty of people to respect him and obey his order. So why citizens or people will obey the Badshah and obey his order, respect the Badshah and obey his order? Because The Batsa is the agent of God. He is the symbol of absolute power, right? And he is the father of all praja. Now that's the reason that citizens or the people should respect the Badshah and obey his order. If Badshah discriminates, then he cannot be considered as the good king. King cannot be challenged since he have been given miraculous power, right? So the you know important point is that the king cannot be challenged. The king cannot be challenged means the king should not be challenged. Why the king should not be challenged? The moment you challenge the king, then you are delegitimizing the entire, you know, sultanate. Suppose the king discriminates or the Badshah discriminates, then it is unfortunate and you cannot call that Badshah as a good king or good Badshah. But the Badshah should not be challenged because he has been given the miraculous power, right? The moment you challenge him, then problem happens in the legitimacy, which results the instability in the sultanate. He is the final authority even in the religious matter. During the Delhi Sultanate, the king had no say on religious matter. When Akbar acquired kingship, he made himself the final authority even in the religious dispute because he followed the order of the god and he could not be wrong. Akbar was the ideal king for Abul Fazl, and that is why he looked at Akbar as a complete man who could never be wrong. Now, this is a very important aspect of, of you know Abul Fazl and Akbar. Right. In the Delhi Sultanate, right? Uh, since the Sultan, they were following the Shariat, and Shariat was the uh, guiding uh, force of the Sultanate. The king in the Delhi Sultanate, they were not having any say or any uh, objection or support on religious matters. On the religious matters, the king had no say. But when Akbar, you know, he became the sultan, now he made himself the final authority in the religious dispute. So he did not allow the Shariat to dictate, rather than he himself dictates in the religious disputes. And why he sidelined Shariat and he dictates? Because, as I have mentioned earlier, because he as a sovereign, he was promised on the social contract and he was sent by the God in order to deal with the problems of the people. If he is the father, then the citizens are his children, right? And it is on this basis he made himself the final authority on religious disputes because he is not the follower of Shariat, rather than he is the follower of the order of the God. So he is not following Shariat, he is following the God. He is the embodiment of the God on the earth. So that's why he must deal with every dispute, including religious dispute. And secondly, he could not be wrong. The king can be no wrong. It means since he is representing God on the earth, he since the Badshah is doing the function of the God, God cannot be wrong, hence the king cannot be wrong. This is Abul Fazl, and Abul Fazl he has prescribed these you know qualities or characteristics to become a good sultan, and the base of his prescription is actually his experience with Akbar. In fact, Akbar was the ideal king for Abul Fazl, and that is why he looked at Akbar as a complete man who could never be wrong. So, whatever he has observed from Akbar, he prescribed it for all kings to sustain and maintain the stability, social, political, economic stability in their sultanate. The agent of God could not practice discrimination among various faiths present in the society. Sovereignty was not restricted to any particular faith. It became overreaching. Fazl believed that in a poly-religious country like India, the theory of monarchical sovereignty was more relevant. Here sovereignty was not to be related with any particular religion, as monarch was above all religions. The sovereign must have the quality of tolerance for existing belief, and he should not reject the traditional ways of his people. He must have the nationalist, rationalist approach to the social reform. Now, here in this paragraph, you can visualize the modern secularism. So you can visualize modern secularism from the practice of Akbar and from the prescription of Abul Fazl, right? So Abul Fazl was not connecting Akbar with Shariat, rather than he was connecting Akbar as a king to the God. So what God does, the king must, or the king should do it. As the agent of the God, I have already said, the king cannot practice discrimination because the sovereignty or the sovereign or the king or sultan, it cannot be restricted to any particular faith. The king must be overreaching. He should reach to all faiths from Muslim to non-Muslim faiths. And Fazl believed that in a poly-religious country like India, the theory of monarchical sovereignty was more relevant. Monarchical sovereignty. The sovereign must think that he is a monarch, he is a king. He should not follow a particular religion. He should not impose a particular religion on other faiths. He should think that I am more a king than a Muslim. I am more a king than a Muslim. Now, this is the monarchical sovereignty. Your sovereignty was not to be related with any particular religion, as monarch was above all religion. Right? Monarch, the king, cannot have any religion. If the monarch belongs to the Muslim religion, then it is his personal. The moment monarch sits on the Raj Gadi, then he doesn't have any religion. He is for all. He is there to accommodate to all faiths. He should not be irreligious or anti-religious. He should not be irreligious or anti-religious. The sovereign must have the quality of tolerance for existing belief. That means the monarch, king, Badshah, Sultan, he must have the quality of tolerance. He should not be intolerant for existing belief, and he should not reject the traditional ways of his people. He should not impose modernity, and he should not object also modernity. So those who wants to be guided by the modernity, they are free to do, and those who want want to be guided by the traditional thinking, they are also free to be guided. And by doing that, this monarch must have a rationalist approach to the social reform. Rationalist approach, that is important. Rationalist approach to the social reform means what? What is a rationalist approach? Approach that is beneficial, or approach that is uh, or that creates a good individual, a good society, a good state, a good kingdom. Now that is the rationalist approach. A rationalist approach cannot go against any rational individual. So far as the division of society is concerned, Hazel classified human beings into four categories: as warriors, artificers, merchants, and learned. So one is the warrior, another is the artificers, right? Merchants and learned. What is artificers? Let me check. What is artificers? Artificers means a skilled, craftsman, right? So there are, four categories of people in a society. So one is the warrior class, one is the artificer class, skilled craftsman class. Another is the, merchants. So uh, those who do vyavsai and business, and the other category is the learned class. Okay. He also classified human beings into three classes on their qualities as noble, base, and intermediate. Right. So, from so far as the karma is concerned, karma, duty. You know, Hazel classified human beings into four categories, and so far as the qualities is concerned, Hazel classified them into three categories. So, what is this noble? Noble category represents the qualities like pure intellect, capacity of administration, personal courage for military duty, absolute loyalty to the king. Now, this is very important. Nobles has the absolute loyalty to the king, and those who represents the best qualities, their characteristics are they display loyalty to the king if the loyalty is tangible to their gains. Right? So if there is a profit or if there is any gaining, then they will show their loyalty. But in case of nobles, whether it is a gaining or it is non-gaining, those nobles they have loyalty to the king in any situation at any point of time. But here it is not the case. And the intermediate, the class who has the qualities of intermediate, they do not have any sign of, loyalty. Any sign of loyalty. Now, if you see the base and the intermediate, then you will find that the people representing these two classes, they are very much self-centered people, very selfish, and these people they belong to from various, professions. They are highly professional. Right? Now, the base and the intermediate class should not aspire for a share in the state power. So only the nobles they should aspire for the share in the state power. State power should not be given to people belonging to base class and the intermediate class. The task of administration and why should not be given because if state will be in the hands of base class and the intermediate class, then it will weaken the state. It will weaken the state. State cannot perform the welfare activities rather than these people. They will misuse the power of the state for their own vested interest. So that's why the base and intermediate class they should not be given the state power. The task of administering state should be the preserve or should be preserved for those belonging to the noble families and to the upper castes. Here, Fazl is very sure about that only the noble families they should be given the state power, and mostly noble families they belong to the upper caste family, because upper caste family they have the higher virtue, they do not have this monetary appetite, ethically and morally they are far better and superior, and their wordings has significance. So they can give their life, but they cannot disprove their wordings. Whatever they say, they used to do it, and they take the responsibility. They take the responsibility, and that's why the state power should be preserved to the noble families and the upper caste. Now, prevalence of evil section in the society was the justification for the royal despotism for only a king who possessed the necessary qualities. That means the king should be despotic also. I mean, Fazl, who is a secular, political thinker in the Islam, he wants king to be despotic. Why the king should be despotic? Because there are evil sections in the society, and those evil sections needs the despotism, the qualities of despotism of king. But when the king can be despotic against these evil powers, when the king possesses the necessary qualities, only a good king should be a despotic king. A bad king should not be a despotic king. If a bad king becomes a despotic king, then it will strengthen the criminals or evil. If a good king becomes a despotic king, then it will, you know, when a good king becomes a despotic king, then it establishes a good state, good society, or good individual. The divinity of sovereignty clearly defied any restriction on the power and authority of the sovereign. The divinity of sovereignty clearly defied any restrictions on the power and authority of the sovereign. It is through this unrestricted authority the king performs his duty to provide justice to the people. Right? So why the king is so much powerful? Because the king is the embodiment of the God. And that's why the king has the unrestricted, authority, authority and power. Because divinity is attached with the king. Divinity. The God is all powerful, the king should be all powerful. And through this unrestricted authority, the king performs his duty to provide justice to the people. So the duty of king is related with justice to the people. Right? The king should do duty to give justice. And what is the duty? Now, there are five kinds of duties of a, or sorry, nine kinds of duties of a king. So the first duty is to punish the wrongdoers. First duty of the king is to punish the wrongdoers. The second duty is to help the innocent people. Third duty is being kind and harmonious, very kind and harmonious. Fourth duty is to treat people as his children. Fifth duty is to ensure peace. Sixth duty is to remain indifferent, not to be hurt by anybody. Remaining indifferent. A king should not be attached to any particular institution, group, or he should not have any appetite. And why this indifferent is necessary? The moment you become indifferent, then you will not be hurt by anybody. Then, seven, the king should be transparent in his decision. Eight, the king should reward, the king should give the reward to the good people. And the ninth, the king must have the high morals and spiritual level. Now, these are the duties of a king, and these duties is very essential to become the judicial head of the state because king is the judicial head of the state. Now, in his administrative laws, Abul Fazl gave supreme place to the advocates among all the officers. According to him, advocates should have those qualities which could solve both private and social problems of the king. So according to him, advocates should have those qualities which could solve both private and social problems of the king. So Abul Fazl, he has given importance to the advocates, those who are dealing with the judicial matter. You know, very supreme place among all officers. Statecraft, the officers who are in the statecraft, there are many kinds of officers in the statecraft, and among them, advocates were the supreme. And advocates should also have all these, qualities. What is meant for the king or monarch? These nine qualities must also present in the advocates because king is the, you know, final authority on the judicial matter. But every cases should not and cannot go to the king. Right? So many judicial, judicial institutions below than the king are there. Now they deal with the cases. Now to deal with the cases, the these qualities are also necessary for the advocates. Fazl has a strong belief in the hierarchy, but he was more concerned about the need of talent. Sorry, Hazel has a strong belief in the hierarchy, but he was more concerned about the need of talent for the kingdom. He did not bother about the social background of a talented person. Right? So, hierarchy should be there, but this hierarchy should not be based on heredity, right? Rather than this hierarchy will be there with the talented persons. So without hierarchy, the administration cannot function, right? So there will be officer, there will be a clerk, there will be peon, there will be a vice chancellor, right? So hierarchy should be there. So what is actually true for the public, that is also true for the private uh, life also. So when you talk about equality, then equality has a context to understand and apply. You cannot, apply equality everywhere, right? So hierarchy is not a bad idea. Hierarchy is not a bad idea. But so those who are on those posts, they should be talented. And Fazl, he was not bothering about the social background of the talented person. So all the talented persons, they were just like Brahman, what Manu calls the Brahman, the superior individual. So all the talented persons were Brahman in the language of Manu for Abul Fazl. Right. Now Fazl wanted Hindu and Muslim to coexist peacefully, right? And they were not interfering in the existing framework of the society. So, how that peaceful coexistence is possible? Why there is no, you know, negative interaction between the Hindus and Muslims? At the time, Muslims were ruling and Hindus were ruled. And how there is a good relationship between the Hindus and Muslims? And it is because the Muslim king, they were not interfering in the Hindu, thought. How? It's because the matter of Hindus were very rarely coming to the courts. Mostly it were settled by the Panchayat and caste courts. So if any disputes of Hindu comes to the Mughal Darbar, then it becomes the duty of the king to give justice. And while giving justice, it may go against the Hindu practices. And as a result, it may lead to a communal clash between the Hindu and Muslim. But such thing doesn't happen. It is because the disputes, the Hindu disputes, it were settled at the panchayat level and caste code level. So it was rarely coming to the courts. So there is less chances or opportunity of Muslim king, sultan, or Badshah, the monarch, to deal with the Hindu disputes. So as a result, the coexistence, the harmony between the Hindu and Muslim, it were possible. Now Fazl was not a blind supporter of Islam. This was the reason that he respected the Hindu religion and support the participation of Hindus in the governance and administration. Right. So who is this? Birbal. Birbal was a Hindu person, and Akbar made Birbal very nearer to him. Birbal was a person who was very nearer to Akbar, and Birbal was a Hindu. So even Akbar was not the blind supporter of the Islam. They are supporter, but not the blind supporter. Hence, Fazl also talks about the Sultan should not be the blind supporter of Islam, and the Sultan must have respect to the Hindu religion, and the Sultan must support the participation of Hindu in the governance and administration. And he was arguing that Abul Fazl was arguing that Hindus also believed in the theory of monotheism, like Muslim one God, but there are different, you know, incarnation of God, but God is one. But most Muslims get them wrong because they don't read their religious scriptures. So their criticism springs from the ignorance. So what the Muslim talks about the non-Muslim, especially Hindu, is the kafir. This is because of their non-reading of Hindu scriptures, It is because of their non-knowing of Hindus' values, tradition, and culture, and that is why this non-reading results the ignorance, and out of ignorance, Muslim they have a very negative view on Hindu. And Fazl was recognizing it. Now Fazl did not think that Islam was superior to all religion, and that is why many people called him kafir. You know, we remember Kabir. Was also called the kafir, and Abul Fazl was also called kafir by many Muslims because Fazl was not thinking that Islam was superior to all religions. That is why he was called kafir by his Muslim clan. Now his religious thought were based on the secularism which considered all religions equal and believe in the religious fraternity. He was considered as an intellectual, a thinker who believed in the goodness of all religions. He liked rationality, innovation in every field, and he did not like orthodox, traditional, and customary values. He argued if traditions were sufficient for all times, then why Prophet brought the new thoughts? Now, this is a very good argument. So, if it is all about the tradition, if the tradition and customary values are everything and are sufficient for all times or for human beings in all time, then why Prophet Muhammad brought new thoughts? So it means Prophet Muhammad supports the ideas of rationality and innovation. So Muslim they must develop this attitude of rationality and they should believe in the innovation. That will make you a better Muslim or that will make you better Sultan, better Badshah. Not merely following the orthodox, traditional, and customary values. That will not make you. It's a very good argument. So the moment you become rational and your approach becomes innovative, then you can feel that all religions are equal. So no religion is superior to any other religion. And you can see there is a fraternity of all individuals, all human beings, irrespective of their religious faith. You can see that. And you can feel that every in every religion there is goodness. You can feel that. Now for Abul Fazl, change in the law and religion must be initiated with the passage of time. When you become rational and innovative, then you can understand the change. Through your rationality, you understand the passage of time. You understand how time changes. And through this innovative attitude, you try to develop new laws. You try to update the understanding of religion in order to, you know, tackle the new problems. Now it is because of this thought by the Abul Fazl. Fazl was the trusted courtier in Akbar's rule. Right? So what Akbar was practicing, Abul Fazl was theorizing the practice of Akbar. And he was prescribing if you want to be a Badshah, then you have to follow this approach or this thought, this method, what Akbar did it. So he used the praxis of Akbar, and he prescribes for all king or monarch to follow the path of Akbar as a ruler. And that is why Fazl was the trusted courtier in the Akbar's rule. So this is all about your, Abul Fazl. I am ending your Abul Fazl here, and the rest too I may not teach you. But let me once again reassure you that the questions will be from 6 units, the final questions. Whatever I have not taught, I will not ask questions from that. So thank you very much. Wish you all the best for your exam.